What's going on, everybody? Jolt here from the Token Minorities, and I am here with NPL Season 5, Week 12 in a do-or-die game against the Brisbane Brelooms, coached by my good friend Aberforth. You should know him from the Token Minorities, but just in case you haven't watched any of his content here, I will link his channel in the description below. Give him a look. He's a very good guy, worth your time checking out on his channel. So, like I said, this is, again, a do-or-die game, and, you know, I don't like being in this back-against-the-wall position, but that's what we find ourselves in due to our little mid-season slump slash streak of bad luck. You know how it goes, but we're still trying to dig our way out of it. And the good news is that if I win out, I'm in the playoffs, and there is no question there. So I essentially control my own destiny, regardless of the amount of crap I put up with this season. So, you know, you really can't ask for more than that, though I would like to not have this kind of pressure, obviously, but, you know, we're just going to have to try to deal with it here. And this week, we have a tough opponent. Abe is, in my opinion, one of the strongest battlers in the entire league, and that's saying something given the depth of this league this season. And, you know, he's going to be tough. I consider him my equal in terms of battling ability, and, you know, it's going to come down to prep in this game. And he got me last time. He brought a shiny Choice Scarf Raikou, and he outsped my +2 Cloyster, which he would only have been able to do if he was Timid instead of Rash. So he got me with that little tweak on his prep last time, and you know, I really feel like that's the only game this season where I just got. Like, I could have won, but I got outsmarted. I think in every other loss this season, I definitely could have won if little things had gone my way. And, you know, I need to get revenge for that game because I don't like getting outplayed. And we're going to try to get revenge here, especially considering we're finally back on the right track. The tilt is over. We won last week against the Austin Toros. We're going to try to win again this week. And if we win this game, then we have one more win that we have to take care of before we clinch our playoff spot and thus the division. But it starts here, and you know, this is essentially round 2 of my playoff run in Season 5, so let's go ahead and jump right on into it. So his team is Mega Diancie, Empoleon, Raikou, Zygarde, Chestnut, Victini, Sneasel, Rhyperior, Reuniclus, Weezing, and Staraptor. So as you can probably tell from those of you that have watched my NPL videos throughout the season, this is the man that I made the big trade with earlier in the season. So he has my Victini, he has my Empoleon, and does he have anything else of mine anymore? I don't believe he has anything else of mine now, but he did have a couple other things, or at least one other thing, Cloyster, earlier in the season. So, you know, he's got some threats, and the biggest issue, I think, is that he has the Staraptor, and he has the Victini, and really the Mega Diancie as well as the Reuniclus that all can really take advantage of bulky offense to balance builds. And I don't really want to play that game, because last time around I tried to bring a bulky offensive squad, really bordering on semi-stall. It was a very, very fat team last time, and I didn't feel like I really had control of the game. Even though I brought a bunch of stuff that was hard for him to break down, I felt like I was always playing defensively, and that doesn't always work against someone of Abe's caliber. So this week I am going to build much more offensively. In fact, hyper offensively. And that is something I can now do because I have Haxorus on my team, which is wonderful. Haxorus is very much so beneficial to this team in place of Salamence for sure, as well as the potential to run Swallow, which admittedly against his team isn't great, as he does have the likes of like Rhyperior, which can just hard wall it, defensive Zygarde walls, Empoleon walls, Mega Diancie walls if I don't run Steel Wing. Like, he's got a lot of answers to Swallow, unfortunately, but a lot of my offensive threats can put in a lot of work against this team, and I will show you pretty soon what I decide to bring for that. But, you know, in terms of my offensive build, bigger threats on his team are the likes of like a Scarf Victini, even Raikou with just its natural base 115 speed definitely could be an issue for an offensive build, and Scarf Staraptor as well as any like Trick Room option. All those can be really threatening to an offensive build, so those are the things I really have to keep in mind whenever I'm building my team. Just those kind of you know, cheeky strategies that are quite honestly pretty likely to come just because of his trends during his winning streak. He's easily one of the hottest coaches in the league right now, like behind Dylan, who is 12-0 at this point in the season. Abe has been very, very hot. I believe he's won his past 5 games, which I don't think anyone else has done. So we're going to have to essentially be his buzzsaw this week if we're going to maintain our chance at making the playoffs. And I feel like I built a team that is capable of doing so. It's just going to be difficult because I can't really rely on my team alone to beat someone like Abe. I have to really play well as well. And I did a lot of practice matches for this game. I did a lot of practice matches, and I feel pretty ready to roll on that for sure. But let's go ahead and hop on over to the team builder real quick, as I am bringing Haxorus, Aerodactyl, Starmie, Lucario, Sylveon, and Darmanitan. So let's start off with the Haxorus set. So this set is very interesting. Now, if you look at the EVs, it looks very standard, just max attack, max speed, and that's fine. I really didn't want to invest in bulk on this because I have a Focus Sash, and if you'll notice, my IVs are also a bit cheeky in that I have 20 IVs in HP and 0 in defense. Now, the reasoning behind nerfing my own defenses is that when I'm on a Focus Sash, I'm essentially expecting him to lead with Mega Diancie or Staraptor against my team. And, if he leads Mega Diancie, that's fine. I'm guaranteed to live a Moonblast, and I can just OHKO with an Adamant Earthquake. If I was Jolly, I would not OHKO. So that is the reasoning behind Adamant on this set. If he leads Staraptor, I need him to put himself in range of my Dragon Claw. I don't want to click Outrage because I might want to save Haxorus for that fodder, depending on what he tries to revenge kill me with. So I'm going to try to click Dragon Claw against a lead Staraptor, meaning that he has to be at a certain range of health in order for that to guarantee KO or get close to guarantee. And the only way I'm able to do that is if I make Staraptor prog my Focus Sash. So I wasn't quite able to do that with 0 defense, 31 HP. That would have been optimal, obviously, for recoil reasons, but, I was able to achieve that with this IV spread, and I believe my chance of OHKOing Staraptor after he locks himself into Jolly Scarf Brave Bird is, about 60 to 70%, a little above that, actually, which I will take those odds. The worst case scenario is that we probably double down on the following turn, and I don't get to have a safe switch in. But with this being a hyper-offensive build, I want to always have switch initiative if I can. At least, unless I've already killed something. If I killed something, then that's fine, but you know how it is with offense. So the goal is for him to die turn 1, and then I sack Haxorus, and then I go into my next offensive threat, and continue to apply the pressure on him throughout the game, maintaining momentum on my side of the field, and that will hopefully put me in the best position to, most importantly, not get haxed in this game, but, also to actually come out with the win against Abe. So that's the game plan here going in, and this is the Haxorus set. I did opt for Outrage as well as my last move there, just in case you had something like a Chestnut or Weezing to try to, I shouldn't say Weezing as I do have Earthquake for Weezing, but if he brings Chestnut or even like a defensive Zygarde, I think I will benefit a lot from having Outrage just because I can click it and spam it and I do a ton of damage to both, and if Chestnut is his counter and it's defensive, then I can easily set up a Dragon Dance and probably 2-hit KO with Outrage, so that's a pretty good deal there for sure. So that is the Haxorus set. Next up is the Aerodactyl. Now this was a necessary bring for Pursuit and for Stealth Rock. So let's talk about Stealth Rock first. Obvious reasons, I want rocks on the field if I'm running offense. It just helps ensure various KOs, particularly against the Victini, as I need Victini to be under 50% for Pursuit to be able to KO on the switch out. So that's something that's worth noting there for sure. I'll be working very hard to get Victini weakened into range of this. But Pursuit is also really nice on this, one for the Victini, as Victini is an absolute monster to my team, especially if Choice Scarf. But further, Staraptor is something that I want to Pursuit as well, because I need to Pursuit Staraptor into range of my Lucario. As if you look through my team, at face value, I don't have much for a Staraptor. But if I can Pursuit it with Aerodactyl, I can Revenge with Lucario's E-Speed or Bullet Punch. I have both on it actually this week, and then I also have Scarf Starmie. So all those will be able to Revenge the Staraptor, but I need to make sure it's weakened into guaranteed range of those. The only way to assure that is with Pursuit on Aerodactyl, as I don't believe Staraptor gets Steel Wing. If it does, I don't think he'll bring it. I think it just makes a lot more sense for him to bring something like Close Combat in that slot. So that's the thought on that. Earthquake for the Empoleon mainly, but also it's nice for the Raikou, and Ice Fang is there too. Denies setup from the Zygarde, as DD Zygarde is a little bit threatening, as long as, well, I mean, it's threatening if my Sylveon is weakened, which it could be considering I'm planning to play this team offensively. So, you know, having Ice Fang is good to deter setup there on that. It's also nice for super effective coverage against the Staraptor in case he's low enough to where I don't need a Pursuit, something like that. But yeah, that is the Aerodactyl set. Now, I am running Max on this as well, but there's a reasoning behind it, and that's because I need Max on this to be able to outspeed a rock-polished Jolly Rhyperior. So, that is, you know, that's the reasoning behind max speed there. I would have liked to add some defense on that to make sure I could guaranteed survive certain hits from Staraptor, but I felt that outpacing a rock polished Rhyperior was more important, as I don't want to deal with that as I'm running a team that highly relies on having its speed. So next up is the Starmie. Again, we're running a max spread, but again, there's reasoning behind it, as if you notice, Modest Starmie hits 329, which happens to be 1 speed point higher than a plus speed base 100, aka Victini. So, you know, this also worked pretty well there, and I was not forced to run Timid unless I expected Scarf Raikou. I fully expect Sub-CM Raikou this week, as that is the only way he'd be able to handle the potential Lantern. So, that's the reasoning behind running Modest Scarf this week, plus having access to Trick is really nice for things like the Reuniclus, as well as, you know, potentially the Empoleon, I guess, if I want to really wear that down. And, shoot, what was the other reasoning behind that? Let me pull up the roster real quick and check my other reasoning for having that. I guess it was mainly the Reuniclus, but also for the Zygarde potentially, as if I choice lock the Zygarde, then it's a lot less threatening, as it has to essentially choose its coverage move that it's going to go for, and I can respond to the respond with the appropriate immunities. So coverage of Scald, Psyshock, Ice Beam hits essentially everything bar Empoleon. I opted not to run T-Bolt because I needed Ice Beam to make sure I could revenge the Zygarde pretty cleanly, as well as Psyshock to hit a Sub-CM Raikou on the defensive side, and Scald for general coverage and nice burns against his team, and just it's really good against him overall. So I really couldn't afford to run T-Bolt in addition to Trick. I figured Trick was more useful here. Now, Natural Cure as well instead of Analytic, just because he might switch, but his switch is probably going to be Empoleon. This is not doing anything to Empoleon anyways, so I would much rather have Natural Cure on the off chance that he has like Glare on Zygarde as a hard switch this in, or if he like burns me with Empoleon or something like that. So I feel like it's just better to have Natural Cure here. Now, next up is the Lucario, which either could be really good in this matchup or really useless, and you know, we'll just kind of see. It depends on what he brings. If he brings like a defensive Zygarde, this could be pretty useless. If he brings, I guess that's mainly it. If he brings defensive Zygarde, this could be useless, and that's essentially what he brought last time. He brought a Zygarde to counter my Darmanitan, or not my Victini at the time, and my Lucario last time around. So I somewhat expect him to do that, potentially, but I also know with this being a rematch, he's more likely to not bring the same sets as last time, so I opted not to run Ice Punch on this. I actually opted to run Bullet Punch E-Speed for pretty standard priority. Bullet Punch mainly for the Mega Diancie, E-Speed to revenge the likes of a Victini, Raikou potentially, or more importantly Staraptor. But then I have Close Combat and Psychic. Close Combat is just good in general. I think if I pull a couple nifty doubles, maybe expecting the Empoleon to come in, or expecting something slower than Lucario that doesn't appreciate Close Combat, you know, I could get off a nice big hit that way, and that happened a lot in my practice battles. But, you know, I think the more important move here is Psychic, as if he brings Weezing or Chestnut, this just makes sure that neither of those are counters to this. As, you know, I could run something like Crunch to maybe hit defensive Reuniclus a little bit harder, but it's not going to do much to it anyway. I believe it's not even a good chance to 2-hit KO, you know, unless I get the defense drop, and they easily can run something like Acid Armor, they can run Trick Room, and I just have to switch out anyways, so honestly there's no point in doing that. So I felt Psychic was much more useful there, as I have a very good chance to 2-hit KO a defensive Chestnut with a combination of E-Speed and Psychic. It's not guaranteed, especially if he's running leftovers, but you know, it's a chance, which is good. If I have Rocks up, it should be guaranteed, which is pretty nice for sure. But you know, Weezing's actually a big problem for this team if I don't have Psychic on this, so that's the general thought behind that. Now I actually only need to run 136 speed EVs on this with a Lonely Nature, so plus attack minus defense, as this allows me to outpace a max speed Chestnut, and there's really no reason to run anything more than that. and that's because everything else outspeeds this. So, the speed tiers are not really in my favor in this game, so I'm going to be forced to run slower stuff and expect to revenge KO and just get my damage off as the game allows, essentially. It's not, I don't know, it's not like the best matchup in the world, it's not the worst, it's a very volatile matchup, I think, in that we're both going to lose a lot of Pokemon quickly, and that's kind of what I built this team to achieve, as you can obviously tell from the hyper-offensive nature, but I do have the remaining EVs in my special attack just to hit the Weezing and Chestnut as hard as possible. Now, next up is the Sylveon. This set is basically there to make sure Raikou doesn't give me a hard time, as, I guess Reuniclus as well. Both of these are really nice against Reuniclus, as this should be able to handle any form of Reuniclus with fake tiers, even like a Trick Room set. While Life Orb Psyshock does a lot to me, at the very least I should be able to, one, stall out the Trick Room turns, but, two, also wear it down with a combination of Hyper Voice and fake tiers. Potentially if he runs Calm Mind. So, this is a really good check to Reuniclus, but, I think more importantly it's good for the Raikou, as Raikou sub-CM can really put in a lot of work against my team, as I mentioned before, and Fake Tears can't shut that down if I'm able to hit it before it gets up a substitute, but even if it has a substitute, then I can still spam Hyper Voice, and the sub is going to be ignored. So, the combination of those two really is nice, I think, on Sylveon this week, and the EV spread essentially lets me beat any Mega Diancie set, unless he's like Max Attack Adamant, which is pretty uncommon on Diancie, and if he does run Max Attack Adamant Diancie, then I should be able to, I probably can survive a hit with Lucario actually in that case, which is kind of cool. So, I don't think that'll happen. I think he'll be more mixed or specially inclined, which makes the Sylveon a counter to Diancie as well. So this is more or less here to just keep the team afloat and to potentially force the Zygarde to go for Earthquake from time to time, as well, as I don't want it to be able to spam Dragon moves against my team without any real punishment for doing so. So that's the Sylveon. I do have the 8 speed EVs here, just in case he runs 4 on his Empoleon. I do want to outspeed the Empoleon, as this is probably my best way of weakening the Empoleon into guaranteed range of the Darmanitan, as well as weakening it to the point where Starmie can actually be a threat to it, as well as weaken it into range if he's a Chople Berry of my Lucario's close combat. So just in general, this set was really effective for this team, I think. I've definitely played with the idea of running like a Liepard or maybe running Bronzong in that slot, but neither of them really seemed to achieve the goal that I needed that slot to achieve, as Bronzong felt a little useless. It was only really good for Stealth Rocks. It could switch in against a few things and then promptly not do anything back, or at least not get the Okos back that I needed. And this was really just able to keep the team afloat pretty well and put the rest of my team in a good position. So I did opt for Sylveon there. And then finally is the Darmanitan. This set I also played around with a lot, and in hindsight I think it would have been better to actually put this 232 Spidef into HP, which I will try to remember to explain whenever I actually go over the battle. But essentially, the idea behind this set is, again, it's reaching the same speed stat as Lucario is, so it is outpacing a max speed Chestnut, as if he brings Chestnut, I think it's most likely to either be max Fizdef to handle the Haxorus, or it is going to be offensive, as there's really not much of a reason to bring it otherwise when I do have the potential Mega Venusaur, which for whatever reason he thought it was a counter to Mega Venusaur last time. Don't really understand that one too much, but I don't think he'll try to do that a second time, but he might. I never really know. But this set basically is here to be able to take a hit from a Special Lure Victini, as Special Lure Victini is the most likely set to come, in my opinion, as my Victini counters are probably Bulky Haxorus or Lantern, which aren't really counters. So I think Special Victini is coming, though, because that will allow him to run a powerful Energy Ball. And if he has like a mixed Victini, then this set still can take hits from it pretty well for sure, even without any HP investment, as the strongest attack you'll probably have to hit me will be Psychic. And this guarantees that I'm not 2-hit KO'd by a modest max special attack Psychic from Victini, which is pretty good. Does not account for Life Orb, but if he's not Life Orb, then this will do pretty well there. But the combination of Earthquake and Flare Blitz hit essentially everything on his team. If he wants to make Zygarde be his counter or Rhyperior, they're going to get Will-O-Wisps, and he will have to enjoy that. So that will be nice. And then Taunt is there to essentially shut down Trick Room shenanigans from the likes of Reuniclus or what's his other Trick Room user? Man, I keep forgetting that. What is his other Trick Room user? Reuniclus is a Trick Room. Victini, that's the other one. Victini. And then I could also taunt the Chestnut, I guess, as well. So here we are with the actual game itself, and yeah, so he brought Victini, Staraptor, Mega Diancie, Reuniclus, Chestnut, and Empoleon. So, a couple things to note here. He did not bring Raikou, which I thought was kind of interesting for sure, as, you know, Raikou's matchup seemed really scary to me. As soon as I dropped Piloswine, like, not too long after dropping Piloswine, I was thinking, you know, wait a minute, Raikou actually gives me a really hard time now. This might make this game really hard. But, you know, we'll just kind of see what happens on that. But, you know, he didn't actually bring Raikou, which is really surprising, in my opinion. But he did bring essentially, I mean, Chestnut was kind of surprising to see, but the Victini, Staraptor, Mega Diancie, Reuniclus, and Empoleon, all of those I 100% expected. I just expected to see Raikou there in the Chestnut slot, but we'll just kind of see what he decides to bring on that for sure. But in terms of his lead matchup, kind of like I was saying before, I do expect to see a Staraptor or a Diancie lead. He could lead Victini, I guess, but that's also, I don't know. I don't think he'll lead Victini. Even if he does, I think Haxorus is still an amazing lead, because I doubt he'd want to click U-turn on the off chance that I either am like scarfed. I guess if I'm like, if I go for like a Dragon Dance or something turn 1, I don't think he'd want to just click U-turn with Victini. So I don't know. I still think he's going to lead Staraptor or Diancie though. Diancie seems more likely. Or it could even be Empoleon for rocks. I don't know. There's a lot of options he could go with here. But, you know, Haxorus is my dedicated lead in this matchup just because it guarantees a kill, essentially. That's the whole reason behind this set. I want to guarantee a kill against this team and then go from there, potentially, most likely, eliminating a huge offensive threat to my team on turn 1, which is pretty optimal, to say the least. So let's just go ahead and jump right on into this, and let's see what actually happens here in this do-or-die game. So I lead off with my Haxorus as he leads off with his Mega Diancie. Now, I am going to go straight for the Earthquake here, and I'm kind of expecting him to be hyper-aggressive with Mega Diancie as per usual and go for an attack on turn 1, but he makes the safe play this time and just protects, but he falls for the lure, and he goes for the Moonblast on turn 2. I do KO the Diancie, and this is one big threat gone. That said, I did have a lot of ways to revenge it, but even so, getting rid of this early is nice. Now here, I contemplated switching into something else to maybe take the hit, but U-turn was obvious. I didn't want to give him any momentum. I'll just sack my 1 HP Haxorus here and then go into my Lucario versus the Empoleon. And even if he is Chople Berry, this attack will put him in range of my Darmanitan as well as my Aerodactyl, so it's fine. Now here, this is actually important as I do go for the close combat, and he goes into his Reuniclus. Now this damage tells me this is nearly a max Phys Def Reuniclus, if not fully Phys Def. Now what this tells me is that Chestnut might not be max Phys Def, as really it doesn't make much sense, in my opinion, to run 2 physically defensive walls against my team. It's possible, but it seems unlikely. Especially considering the fact that it looks like Spec Sylveon could really go in against his team if his Chestnut was slower. You know, Chestnut doesn't do a lot to Sylveon, but it does have access to super effective coverage for Sylveon, so it would be a nice check to it. You know, just one thought there. But, you know, I do have a lot of ways to hit him on the special side as well, and I don't really think he'll want to bring 2 physical walls against my team, essentially. So that tells me this is potentially an offensive Chestnut, and that's something I need to keep in mind, as a Belly Drum set could definitely be a problem against my team late game if I let it get out of hand. So continuing, he does reveal Leftovers there, which is also good information to have, but we already know it's max Phys Def essentially, so I'm going to go straight into my Sylveon as he reveals Acid Armor. So this is a threat and a half, and this really confirms that that's probably not a defensive Chestnut, as Acid Armor Reuniclus is going to be able to deal with Haxorus if that were the case. So now here, I'm going to force out the Reuniclus with my Sylveon. I go for Fake Tears just in case he wants to go in Empoleon, as that would let me obviously reduce its special defense by 2 stages. But instead he goes into Victini, and here I go for Protect to scout if he's a physically offensive set or especially offensive set. And then knowing that I should be able to survive this hit as long as he's not Life Orb or Banded, I just stay in, as nothing else wants to take the hit anyways. And I know he's going to be at drop 3 Spadef after the V creates, so actually even better news here. Another very important turn. So, you know, every single turn in this game is really, really important. But anyway, so I go for Hyper Voice there after the V create, knowing he'd be at -3 Spadef, and it should do about 50%. Now, after the speed drop, I should outspeed this Victini as long as he's not Choice Scarf. So my potential plays were to try to go into my Starmie, expecting him to go for another V create, and I could have chewed it and then gotten off a big hit against something on his team, potentially burning the incoming Empoleon, or I could have protected with my Sylveon, potentially. I also, you know, to get more health back, I also could Hyper Voice with Sylveon in case he is a Trick Room Victini. And it's week 12. He needs to win this game to win the division. I think he's going to bring Innovation, and I actually expect, just in case, I go for the Hyper Voice here, just in case he does click Trick Room, as it really makes a lot of sense for him to try to bring Trick Room in a do or die game, as that's really been his go-to in the innovation department this season, and I do kind of expect that here. So I am going to go for the Hyper Voice as he goes for the Trick Room. Now the good news about this, I'm going to lose my Sylveon. That's not good news, but the good news is that he is now in range of E-Speed from Lucario. And that's exactly what I'm going to be able to go for here, as I'm going to be able to pick off the Victini, and we are tied at 4-4. So this is looking like it probably will come down to the wire. There is no true win condition defined at this point, because this thing is really, really scary. I'm going to go hard into my Starmie as he goes for the Acid Armor. Now here, the reason why I went into Starmie is because I had Trick, obviously. But the secondary reasoning behind why this was a good play, in my opinion, is that this is my special attacker on the team, and he's already revealed Acid Armor. So I think that he will anticipate that I went into Starmie because I am maybe offensive Life Orb, and that'll be able to do a lot of damage to him on the especially defensive side with this, therefore not suspecting Trick. And that's why I decided to go for Trick immediately instead of, holding my hand instead of showing it immediately. But I go for it and it works. So we trick the Reuniclus, but we still have a problem here because this thing is still +1, +1, +2 defense. That's really threatening. Fortunately for me, it is Mono Psyshock. Now this is also interesting because if I brought Liepard, it would have been hard walled. So this is another case of people not respecting the fact that I have Liepard, and I might just have to bring Liepard if I make playoffs or against Carney as well. So I guess we'll see on that. But even so, Starmie is going to be able to take those Psyshocks pretty well, and I get a crit here. Now this is potentially important, as there is a chance, I think it's a small chance, but there is a chance that I would not have been able to take out this Reuniclus without losing 2 Pokemon if I did not get that crit. That said, if I did not get the crit, it looked like it was doing 24% each turn. So 24% on the first turn, another 24% puts it at about 50%, and it looks like Psyshock is doing 36 plus leftover, so it's a 4 KO from Psyshock essentially, and that means I should be able to get him down to approximately 25% here when all is said and done, before I lose my Starmie. I think that's how the math works there. So in that case, I'd be able to go into my Darmanitan and click Flare Blitz, which he has no switch-ins to. So I think I would have been able to take out the Reuniclus anyways. The fact remains that it would have been a roll. Highly in my favor, but it would have been a roll. So potentially this crit mattered, potentially not. It comes down to a roll in my opinion, but we'll go ahead and continue, as now with the Reuniclus weekend, he actually forgot to put Magic Guard on his Reuniclus, so it just makes it all the more guaranteed that this next Scald will take it out. So that's pretty nice there for sure. But I do think I would have been able to revenge with that Darmanitan anyways, especially considering he did not have Magic Guard there. So here, he's actually going to revenge KO me with his Staraptor. I have no real reason to keep the Starmie because he does have the Empoleon to hard wall it still. So now I'm going to sack it, then I'm going to go into my Aerodactyl with a full intention to pursue this Staraptor. As if he does decide to stay in and go for Brave Bird, I guess props to him, but the combination of Recoil plus Pursuit, I guess 2 rounds of Recoil plus Pursuit would still put him in the range that I needed him to be in range of Lucario, that is. So I think that works out pretty well. He actually reveals to be a red card Empoleon there, which was kind of interesting, but I do decide to go for the Earthquake there just to weaken into range of Flare Blitz from the Darmanitan, and now it's basically coming down to the wire, as I thought about this play for a long time. It might have been a full 4 to 5 minutes thinking about this play, as I could choke the game away right here. I ran every single calc, essentially, possible, to try to determine what the best play was here on this turn. So he's obviously going for Brave Bird. There's no question there. What I decided to do was sack off my Aerodactyl here, and then go for game with Lucario. Now, I made that play because if I decided to sack off my Darmanitan to the Staraptor, and then I go into my my Lucario after that to revenge this, and for somehow miss out on the 2-hit KO against the Chestnut, then my he switches into Chestnut to eat the E-Speed, and then I go for Psychic, I miss the KO, then I go into Aerodactyl to KO the Chestnut, then I actually have a chance of not surviving the next Brave Bird with my Aerodactyl from the Staraptor after Stealth Rock. So I didn't really like the calc there, essentially, and that would have been the play I made if I was expecting him to be a max Fizdef Chestnut, but considering he had the max Fizdef Reuniclus, it's very unlikely that he has 2 max Fizdef Pokemon against my team. So I made this next play under the assumption that he was either offensive Chestnut or not max Fizdef. And if either of those are true, then Lucario is almost guaranteed to 2-hit KO the Chestnut. Okay, so that is the game plan, and this also allows me to still beat the Chestnut if he decides to sack a Staraptor to the Lucario here. So I am going to sack off my Aerodactyl. And as you can see, I actually do chew the hit, so I think it was actually a low roll there on his part, but, you know, given that, my best play might not have been what I actually did, but there was a chance to be KO'd there, so I was not going to take that risk. So I decided to sack off my Aerodactyl, I go into Lucario, and I click E-Speed 100%. There's no reason to try to predict the Chestnut, no matter how obvious it may be, as if I click Psychic and he stays in, then I just lose 100%. But that damage tells me that he is offensive Chestnut with very little HP. I'm able to stay in, click Psychic, take out the Chestnut, and then follow that up with an E-Speed against the Staraptor, and we survive another week. So, whew. Great game, Abe. We've had two fantastic battles this season. Like, oh my god, both came down to the wire. Came down to maybe one play here or there that could have been changed to completely change the outcome of the game. But we survived this game 2-0, meaning we just have to win against Carney in our makeup game to make playoffs and win the division. We just have to win. And, you know, that's been the story the past couple weeks. We have to win. But, you know, it's never been truer this last week, as if we win, we're in the playoffs. Guaranteed. And we'll win the division for the 4th straight season. So, you know, that's obviously my goal, is to win. And once we get to the playoffs, it is a clean slate. All of the hacks that has happened to me this season doesn't matter, because we're all starting fresh. And that's pretty nice for sure. So really stoked about picking up this win against a player the caliber of Abe. And, you know, he could still make playoffs as well. It's very tricky, because if I lose to Carney, then Abe still wins the division. So I can't lose to Carney. And, you know, at the time of this video, there's still a possibility that Top Tier Boy could lose to Togavor in week 12, in which case Abe could still make playoffs regardless. So it's really tight here in terms of the playoff race. But thanks for watching, guys. I will be uploading my game against Carney and the Austin Toros here, you know, in a few days, maybe at the end of the week once we finally get it done. But I got to get through a tough week of grad school as well before I can really feel comfortable playing that game. So one more to go, and then we're in the playoffs. The real playoffs. You know, my playoffs started a while ago, but you know how it goes. But, you know, definitely happy to pick up the win here. So thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you all in our Week 6 makeup game against the Austin Toros. Peace.